sister cut me off for years because I went to a community college. When she found out I was successful, she made up a fake business using my name and took people's money. I, 24F, haven't spoken to my older sister, 26F, for 3 years. Growing up, we were really close. We did everything together, and I used to look up to her a lot. But everything changed once we got to college. She went to a top university, and I didn't make it to the same level. I didn't get into any top schools, and honestly, it was crushing. So I went to community college to figure things out, and from that moment on, things were different between us. Because my sister was going to a prestigious university, she began acting different. It wasn't overnight, but it became clear pretty quickly that she was embarrassed by me. I tried not to let it bother me at first. She was in a new environment, meeting all these successful, high-achieving people, and I figured that maybe she just needed time to adjust. But things only got worse. Anytime I talked about school, she'd give me this condescending smile. It was like she was trying to act polite but didn't really care. She made passive-aggressive comments about how I shouldn't settle for community college and even suggested that I should aim higher. It hurt, but I still tried to brush it off. Eventually, she started acting like I wasn't good enough for her anymore. At family events, she would barely talk to me, and when she did, it was like she was doing me a favor. I remember one time, she introduced me to one of her friends as just a relative. She was genuinely embarrassed to admit we were sisters. There was only so much I could brush off. At this point, I was hurting a lot on the inside. I tried to talk to her about how she was making me feel, but she would constantly either shut me down or blame me for being too stupid. This went on for a while, and she never held back from admitting that she was ashamed of me because I wasn't as accomplished as she was. The final straw happened at a party she invited me to, which I now realize was probably out of pity. It was 3 years ago, and she had just graduated. She wanted to celebrate with her college friends, and I guess she thought it would be nice to include me. At the party, everyone there was from her Ivy League group, and I felt out of place from the start. They were talking about all these things I didn't understand, and I tried to fit in, but I think everyone could tell that I didn't belong there. At some point, I had a few drinks and got a little tipsy. I thought I could join one of the games they were playing, but I ended up spilling a drink on one of her friends by accident. Her friend would not stop screaming about how I had ruined a $7,000 outfit. I was obviously horrified and super embarrassed. I literally couldn't stop apologizing to her friend over and over again, but that wasn't enough for my sister. She completely lost it in front of everyone. She called me pathetic and said that she regretted being my sister. Her exact words hurt so much, but I'll never forget how small she made me feel in front of all those people. It was like she finally had the chance to let me know how ashamed she was of me. I mean, I obviously admit that I was very much in the wrong there. I shouldn't have drank so much, and while it's not an excuse, I only drank that much because of how anxious I was. That being said, I still don't think that I deserved everything my sister said. After that incident though, my sister completely cut me off. She deleted my number, blocked me on social media, and refused to speak to me. I tried reaching out so many times over the years, but she wouldn't respond. She even told my mom that she didn't want to hear from me. She actually wanted me gone from her life. My mom has always tried to get us to talk again. Every time there was a family event, she would ask me to try and make peace with my sister. For 3 years, my mom begged me to attend my sister's birthday parties, but out of respect for my sister's wishes, I didn't go. My mom would keep trying to remind me that my sister was family and that family was important, but the thing was that my sister never wanted to see me. If it were up to me, I would have talked to my sister a long time ago. I didn't want my sister to hate me any more than she already did, so I stayed away. This year, though, my mom begged me more than usual. She said my sister had mellowed out and that maybe this time would be different. My mom was so emotional about it, and I will admit that I missed my family. I hadn't seen them all together in years because my sister would avoid any event that I was invited to. I thought maybe things could finally be different, so I agreed to go. I figured I'd show up with a peace offering and hope for the best. I wanted to show my sister that I wasn't the same person she thought I was, so I bought her a really expensive designer bag, $2,000 to be exact. I could afford it now because I've built a successful career as a writer. After years of hard work, I've self-published a book that's been doing pretty well. I thought the gift might be a way to show her that I'd made it, and maybe she wouldn't look down on me anymore. When I arrived at the party, it was clear from the start that nothing had changed. The moment my sister saw me, she gave me this look of disgust. She didn't say much at first, but the vibes were very off. Just barely 2 minutes after I walked in, my sister asked in a super loud voice so that everyone could hear, who invited her. It stung, but I tried to brush it off. I reminded myself that I was there to make peace. Unfortunately for me, she didn't stop there. She continued, only this time, she walked over to me while everyone else watched us. She then loudly announced, "Community college trash, like you could never fit in here." It was so humiliating, and I felt all the confidence I had built over the years basically crumble into a huge heap on the floor. I stood there and tried my best not to cry while actively wishing I hadn't come. My sister walked away from me then and walked back over to her group of friends. I figured it was time to leave that point. I was clearly not welcome and I was not a fan of being publicly humiliated. I waited around for another minute so everybody could go back to talking among themselves before I made my way to the exit. But just before I could get there, one of my sister's friends approached me and said she recognized me. At first, I thought she was confusing me with someone else, but then she started talking about my book. She had read it and even had a copy of it with her. She asked me to sign it, and I was completely shocked. My book had gotten pretty popular, but I never thought anyone at my sister's party would know about it. I signed her book, and suddenly, the mood shifted. My sister's whole attitude changed. She went from ignoring me to acting like we were the best of friends. She started introducing me to her guests as the genius behind that book, and it was so fake that I didn't know what to do. Clearly, she only cared about me now because her friend was impressed by my success. I played along to avoid causing more drama, but inside, I felt so betrayed. I stayed at the party a little longer, until it got too uncomfortable, and I left. But my sister has started acting like nothing had happened and like she hadn't spent the last 3 years with absolutely no contact with me. Ever since her birthday party, she's been blowing up my phone, with calls and texts, essentially asking if we can hang out and be sisters again. She keeps saying how proud she is of me and how we should reconnect. I haven't responded to her texts and it's been a week since she started spamming me through every possible way of communication. I talked to a friend about this whole situation, and she told me that I was really rude for not giving my sister a second chance. Honestly, I do miss having a relationship with her, but it's hard to forget how she treated me when she thought I was a nobody in her eyes. She only wants me in her life now because I'm successful and I don't like that thought. I mean, I'm family, right? Why should career define how she treats me? But, I still don't know if I'm overreacting or if I'm right to be cautious. Ida for refusing to reconnect with her, even though she's trying now? Update 1. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for the responses and advice. I've read through your comments, and you all gave me a lot to think about. I wanted to update you on what's happened since my original post. And wow, it's been a lot. First off, a few of you had questions about my decision to go NC with my sister. You're right. It wasn't an easy choice. But it wasn't a choice I made. After the whole party incident where she called me pathetic in front of her friends, I tried for years to reach out. I sent texts, tried calling, and even asked my mom to help us patch things up. My sister made it clear she wasn't interested. She blocked me everywhere and shut me out. She refused to be anywhere near me and even had our family get involved. She essentially forced our family to pick between us because she refused to attend any family event with me there. Eventually, I decided to just not attend these events so at least my family could get together and enjoy themselves. That doesn't mean I never saw them, obviously. I just never went to another family barbecue for the next 3 years. At some point, though, I just stopped trying to reach out to my sister because I felt humiliated. I figured, why keep chasing someone who doesn't want me around? That's how NC happened, not because I didn't care, but because I wasn't going to keep banging my head against a wall. A lot of you also asked why I decided to go to her birthday party after being NC for 3 years. To be honest, I was reluctant. My mom had begged me to attend for the last few years and she kept saying that my sister might come around if I just showed up. I didn't want to, out of respect for the boundaries my sister set, but this time, my mom made it sound like my sister had really changed. I gave in because part of me hoped my mom was right. I wanted to believe things could finally be different. Turns out, they weren't. Lastly, a bunch of you have asked about that party where I spilled a drink on her friend. A lot of you think that I omitted details from the story, but that was literally it. I was really nervous about hanging out with my sister and her friends because she spent the last 4 years talking about how amazing they all were while actively telling me how I was trash compared to them. Not to mention, all of her friends were from pretty influential families, and my sister and I came from a middle-class family. I know that I shouldn't have drank so much, but you also have to keep in mind that I was freshly 21 at that time, and I just figured it wouldn't hurt to let loose just a little bit. I never wanted to ruin the party or embarrass my sister in any way. I have always felt really bad about that day, and trust me, I did everything I could to show my sister how apologetic I was. A lot of you have said that my sister's reaction was over the top, but I don't know what to tell you. I guess she's always been a bit dramatic. Anyway, after that disaster at the party, I decided not to respond to my sister's texts right away. I needed time to process everything. I mean, she acted like I was garbage for years, and now suddenly she wanted to be close just because one of her friends recognized me from my book? I didn't quite like that. I eventually sent her a text thanking her for being nicer at the party, but I also told her that I didn't feel comfortable jumping back into a sisterly relationship just because she stopped thinking I was a loser. I said I needed time to think about everything, and that I didn't want to rebuild a relationship based on my success. Apparently, that text didn't go over well. My sister called our mom to complain that I was ignoring her and being difficult. Then my mom called me and said that my sister was heartbroken and that she really wanted to make things right. I tried to explain that this wasn't about ignoring my sister. It was about protecting myself from more hurt. I told my mom I was glad my sister seemed interested in repairing our relationship, but I couldn't ignore how badly she'd treated me in the past. My mom gave me the usual spiel about family being family and how this was the perfect opportunity to rebuild our bond. I think a part of me snapped at that moment. I asked her where this energy was when my sister was calling me community college trash and ignoring me for years. I told her that if she had spent half as much energy begging my sister to let go of her petty grudge against me as she had spent begging me to attend these events, maybe things wouldn't have gotten this bad. She got quiet after that and hung up the phone pretty quickly. A couple of days later, my sister showed up at my apartment without warning. I hadn't even told her where I lived, so I assumed my mom must have given her the address. She had a bunch of old photos of us as kids and started talking about how much she missed me. It was very strange. She kept bringing up things like how she's been thinking a lot about us lately and how we were always meant to be close. But the more we talked, the weirder it got. She kept bringing up my income and casually mentioned how successful I was now. She asked a lot of questions about how much I make from my book and if I had any other projects lined up. It felt like the conversation was more about what I could possibly do for her with my new finances than about genuinely reconnecting and repairing our relationship. Then, she started dropping hints about how we could start a family business together since she has great ideas, and I'm so talented. That's when I knew for sure something was up. I was uncomfortable and didn't want to deal with her anymore, so I made up an excuse about needing to finish some work and managed to get her out of my apartment. I haven't heard from her directly since, but my mom has been calling nonstop and she's been trying to get me to give my sister another chance. At this point, I don't know what to do. Obviously, I miss the sister I had growing up, but the person she's become doesn't seem interested in me but rather in what I can offer her now that I'm doing well. I'm not sure I want to go down that road, especially after everything she's already put me through. Thanks again for all your support. I'll keep you posted if anything else happens. Update 2. Hey everyone. It's been about 2 weeks since my last post and somehow my sister has out-crazied herself. About a week after my sister's surprise visit, I started getting DMs from people mostly mutual acquaintances and some of her friends. These are folks I hadn't talked to in years, and suddenly, they're texting me about how excited they were about this new business my sister and I were supposedly starting together. Some even congratulated me and said that they couldn't wait to see what we build and that they wanted to be the first to invest. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea what anyone was talking about. I figured there must have been some sort of misunderstanding, so I asked a few people what they were talking about. That's when I found out that my sister had apparently been going around telling people that we were starting a business together, something creative and trendy, like a lifestyle brand or product line based on my book. She told them I'd be handling the creative side since I was so talented, her words, not mine, and she'd be taking care of marketing and sales because she's great with people. I even got a message from someone asking if I was taking pre-orders for this upcoming launch. I was stunned. Not only had I never agreed to this, but I hadn't even hinted that I was remotely interested in starting a business with her and in that field too. And now, all these people thought we were deep in the planning stages. I was beyond frustrated with this. I mean, who just goes around making these kinds of announcements without even a conversation? I decided to confront my sister over text because I didn't think I could handle having a conversation with her face to face after the last time. Even though it was over text, I wanted to be clear and straightforward, because I wanted to nip this in the bud quickly. I asked her what on earth she was doing and told her it wasn't okay to tell people we were starting a business when I never agreed to anything. But instead of apologizing or even acknowledging what I said, she brushed me off. She told me that she was just getting the word out to build excitement and that I was overreacting. The way she responded made me feel for a brief second like I was the one being unreasonable. She kept going on and on about how this was such a great opportunity for both of us and how we could make a ton of money if we teamed up. She didn't seem to care that I was upset or that she had crossed a major boundary. She only talked about the potential success we could have and how I was being difficult for not seeing the bigger picture. At this point, I was done with her. I told her I wasn't interested and that she needed to stop. I thought if I made it clear how uncomfortable this made me, she'd back off. But instead, she hit me with a guilt trip. She said I was holding on to the past and being selfish by refusing to rebuild our relationship through this amazing business opportunity. She even accused me of being petty and bitter and said that I was too focused on old issues to see how much she had changed. I genuinely don't understand how she could say all of that to me without once stopping to think about how insane she sounded. Our old issues were literally her ignoring me and treating me like garbage because I didn't have the same life experiences as her. Besides, I wasn't going to let her guilt me into doing something I didn't want to do. I told her I needed space and asked her very clearly to stop contacting me. I thought that would be the end of it. But of course, it wasn't. The next day, she sent me a bunch of emotional texts that basically accused me of throwing away a chance to repair our relationship. She also dragged my mom into it again and said I was breaking her, my mom's, heart by not letting go of old grudges and giving our relationship a fresh start. At that point, I knew I couldn't keep doing this. I was exhausted, both mentally and emotionally. I tried to be polite and patient, but my sister refused to respect my boundaries. The only reason my sister wanted to rebuild our relationship was because she saw an opportunity to make money for herself. Honestly, I would have genuinely helped her out if she actually acknowledged how she hurt me for years and tried to make amends. But she kept brushing off what happened and kept trying to make me feel like I was the only person in the wrong. I couldn't keep hearing her blame and shame me. So, I blocked her. It wasn't easy, and part of me felt guilty for doing it, but I knew I had to protect my peace. I didn't want to get sucked back into her chaos, especially now that I'm in a good place in life. It was hard enough to climb out of the hole she pushed me into emotionally, and I'm not about to let her drag me back down. That's it for now. If anything more bizarre happens, I'll update you guys. Hopefully, that isn't the case, but we never know. Update 3, well, I thought I was done with this whole mess, but of course, things had to escalate again. About 2 weeks after I blocked my sister, I got a call from my mom. She sounded upset and told me that my sister had shown up at her house. Apparently, my sister was crying and saying that I was ruining her life. Apparently, since my sister had been telling everyone about this new business venture of ours and really hyped it up, she was now embarrassed because people were starting to ask questions about said business, and she had no answer to give because, obviously, there is no business. My mom was practically begging me to unblock her and at least talk to her. She said that my sister was going through a really tough time and just needed my support. I'll admit that a part of me felt bad for a split second. But then I remembered how manipulative she's been throughout this whole thing, and I wasn't about to let her guilt trip me again. I told my mom as much and hung up the phone. I wasn't responsible for the lies my sister went around spewing. I didn't even know about this business until a few weeks ago. Then, I found out through a mutual friend that my sister's situation was way worse than I thought. She didn't just hype up the imaginary business. Remember how in my last update I told you about how a few people even offered to lend me money as an investment in the business? Turns out, they did the same with my sister and she actually took money from them. Without even telling me, she collected money from friends, relatives, and random acquaintances who believed in the big project we were starting. And she didn't use that money to set anything up, because there is nothing to set up. Instead, she used it to fund her expensive lifestyle. From what I've gathered, she spent it on designer clothes, fancy dinners, and weekend trips, all while pretending she was some hotshot entrepreneur getting ready to launch her dream business. When people started asking questions about the business, she panicked. With no project to show for the money she'd collected, she blamed me for backing out and leaving her in the lurch. She was telling everyone that I was the reason the business fell apart, which made her look bad and got people really angry at her. This friend also told me that my sister has been struggling financially for a while. After she graduated from college, she didn't land the great job she expected and has been hopping between gigs ever since. But on social media, she's still posting like she's living this lavish life that's full of fancy trips, expensive dinners, designer clothes, you know, the whole deal. Turns out, she's drowning in debt and is just trying to keep up appearances. I guess that's why she was so desperate to involve me. She saw me as her way out. She didn't reach out to me because she missed me or wanted to make amends. She wanted me to bail her out, and when I didn't play along, she panicked. So, when my mom called me again, because of course she did, she kept going on about how my sister was in a bad place and how it was my responsibility to help her out. She tried to make me feel guilty and said that I should be the bigger person. She said that this was just a phase for my sister and that she needed family to get through it. But I was done listening to the same excuses over and over again. Her bad place had started when she went to college and for some reason, she never pulled herself out of it. She not only put herself in trouble, but she made it her mission to drag others down with her. She didn't care that she was going to hurt those close to her. She only wanted to make sure that she looked good. I spent years feeling like trash about the party incident where I spilled a drink on her friend. I've read hundreds of comments since then and realized that it wasn't as big of an issue as my sister made it out to be. She just made me feel so bad about myself, that I had no idea what was wrong and what was right. She cut all contact with me over, quite literally, a spilled drink. So, this time, I didn't let my mom speak too much. Instead, I shut her down and told her straight up that I wasn't going to let myself be used, no matter how much guilt she or my sister tried to throw my way. I reminded her of how much of a nightmare and a bully my sister was. I told her about how my sister had completely ruined my self-esteem for years just so she could feel better about herself. And now, after everything, I asked my mom if she still expected me to be the one to fix my sister's mess. There was no way that was going to happen. I also told her that if she was so worried about my sister, then she should be the one to help her out, not me. I wasn't going to enable her bad decisions, and I certainly wasn't going to take the blame for her own mess. My mom kept trying to push me, but I think I reached my breaking point then. I told her that if she didn't stop trying to guilt-trip me into fixing this for my sister, I'd block her too. That seemed to get through to her, at least for now. She wasn't happy about it, but I think she finally realized that I wasn't going to budge on this. I haven't heard from my sister since I blocked her, and honestly, I'm relieved. I feel bad that things turned out this way, but at the same time, I know I made the right decision. It sucks that she's struggling, but that's not my responsibility to fix, especially when she was trying to drag me down with her. I know a lot of people have commented that I should give her another chance, and that family is family, but I've spent too long letting my sister walk all over me. This whole situation has really shown me that just because someone is family doesn't mean you owe them your time, energy, or money, especially when they've only ever treated you poorly. Thanks again for all the support and advice from the last update. It's really helped me stay grounded and feel confident in the decisions I've made. I'm hoping this is the end of it, but knowing my family, who knows what'll happen next. For now, I'm just focusing on moving forward without all the drama.